If you were with us last week, we've been thinking about the Beatitudes, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. And then last week we thought about what it means to be salt and light. And today we're going to continue that, because we're going to be thinking about, well, how can we shine out our light? How can we keep walking as children of light? And Jesus gives us two illustrations that we're going to look through, two challenges, if you like, that we might come across, which get us to think about walking as children of light. But first of all, there was a man who was out, he was looking for his keys underneath a street light in the dark, and a voice calls out to him, probably his wife, "Did you lose them there?" And the man responds, "No, but at least I've got some light here." So our challenge this morning is to keep walking as children of light, to stay in the light and not drift into the darkness, even though that might be where we've left some things behind from the past. Paul says in Ephesians 5, "For at one time you were in darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light." So what does it mean to live, to walk as children of light? Well, part of the Sermon on the Mount that we heard previously was when Jesus said, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness." Like when it's such a hot day, which we haven't got at the minute, and you're desperately thirsting for that ice cold drink. Or when you've been working really hard and you come home hungering for that home-cooked meal. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, Jesus said. Keep growing in your faith. Keep meeting together. Keep reading from Scripture. Keep praying to the Lord, both by yourself and as a community. Now, question for you. How many Bibles do you have at home? Start doing them up on your fingers there. How many Bibles do you have at home? The average household has got 4 Bibles. And that's across the whole nation. People who believe and don't believe. The average household's got 4 Bibles at home. Do you have a family one? Do you have a special one? I was talking to somebody on Wednesday, and they've got a very special family Bible brought over from Scandinavia. They can't understand it, and it looks very nice, but it is a family heirloom. It's treated with respect. Maybe you've got a Bible at home that you were given when you were baptized or confirmed. I know the first Bible I've got is absolutely in tatters, because it was always carried around with me from the age of 16. Another question for you: what does the Bible look like that you regularly read? Is it pristine condition? Or is it like the one on the screen, falling apart with a lot of highlights and notes in it and that sort of thing? What's the Bible like that you read at the minute? There's a quote there from Charles Spurgeon that says, "A Bible that's falling apart usually belongs to someone who isn't." A Bible that's falling apart usually belongs to someone who isn't. And maybe a Bible that's falling apart belongs to someone who is walking as children of light. There was a research done by an organization called the Center for Bible Engagement. And they were looking at a huge sample of people who read from the Bible. And they came up with some interesting and challenging things. They said that people who read the Bible once a week, maybe twice a week, 3 times a week, didn't seem to have much impact on the way they live their lives. But this research showed that people who read the Bible at least 4 times a week, people who are walking as children of light, have a radically different lifestyle, which was actually quite challenging when I read some of these figures. Those who read the Bible at least 4 times a week are less likely to engage in behaviors such as gambling, pornography, getting drunk, sex outside marriage, divorce. they're 228% more likely to share their faith with other people. 407% more likely to memorize scripture. 59% less likely to view pornography. 30% less likely to struggle with loneliness. A lot of other different stats on that site. It's important for us in our relationship with the Lord to keep hearing from him through his word, to keep speaking to him through prayer. But unfortunately, I think a lot of Christians just fail to tap into that power regularly. And as a result, our spiritual growth stagnates. We struggle to walk as children of light. And we try and rely on our own strength rather than God's strength. And when these other things come in and try and take us down, we struggle. We've got the tools to live as children of light. So Jesus continues in his Sermon on the Mount, and he comes out with these 6 statements which start off, you've heard that it was said. He's referring to something from the past. You see, the scribes, the teachers of the law, they were looking back to what Moses has said, but they were looking back with this narrow interpretation of the law that was largely concerned with the outward behavior. And Jesus is going to say, well, you've heard that it was said, but I tell you, he's going to broaden it out to look at what happens inside us. And Jesus gives some examples of that. And the 2 examples we're focusing on are, as it said there, avoiding anger and averting lust. Jesus is going to show by his authority the true understanding of what the law of Moses means. Now, when I was younger, when my kids were younger, well, I was younger as well, of course. When my kids were younger, my kids are now 25, 22, and 18. So when they were younger, we had a rule that there were 3 words you could not say. I would say maybe they could swear all they want. No, they couldn't swear, they couldn't do those things, but there were 3 words they couldn't say. Up on the screen there, they could not say shut up, they could not say stupid, and they could not say idiot. And we couldn't say that to our kids couldn't say that to each other. I think part of it is because at one time I was in the grocery store and heard a mother who's really struggling with a kid. She'd probably just given up, and she just tells the kid off. She just points and says, "Shut up, you stupid idiot." And I think at that point it just cut me so much to the heart of what those words were doing. How they were demeaning that kid, how they were embarrassing them, how they were putting them down, how in some ways it was worse than getting angry with that kid if they constantly heard those words. They weren't swearing at the kid, they weren't necessarily getting angry. But sometimes there are other things that can really affect the inside. And so Jesus, to anger and to lust, is bringing a different interpretation. Not just looking at the outward physical action, but is looking at what goes on in our hearts, looking at our thoughts, our words, what we see, what we think. So let's have a look at this and see. So Jesus said, you've heard that it was said, you shall not murder. The scribes and the Pharisees, they were correct. Absolutely. The law of God, the 10 Commandments, you shall not murder, breaks the commandment. But does that mean that as long as you don't murder anybody, then you're fine? Jesus said to you, but I say to you that whoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. Now the word angry that Jesus uses there is an anger that wells up inside, that keeps brooding away, that has resentment to it, that wants to seek revenge, an anger that won't forget, that won't forgive, an anger that refuses to be pacified. And Jesus said it's not only the people who commit murder, but also these people who are subject to judgment as well. Because of that murderous intent in their heart, the one that rumbles away, who won't let you forget and forgive. And people who use those angry words, raka means idiot. And fool is calling somebody stupid. Again, it's showing a total disrespect for that person. They are also in danger of judgment. Because those words are like murder to that person, Jesus is saying. And that gets us thinking, doesn't it? It's thinking, okay, so do I have a neighbor or a friend or a work colleague that I'm just really quite frustrated with sometimes? I may feel justified by it, but am I getting mad with them? Am I acting in a way that gets mad? Maybe that person doesn't pull their weight. Maybe just that attitude is something that really winds me up. Maybe we've said some pretty angry words to them, or maybe we just thought angry things about them. Maybe even in our family there have been some strong words of disagreement, and we're sitting there thinking, you know what, I haven't spoken to that family member for a while because we just got frustrated with each other. Maybe there are things that have happened to you in the past. Or maybe you get angry with yourself and struggle to forgive yourselves for things. And we might be saying, well but that stuff I do to that person, it's not murder, so I'm okay, right? I'm not actually wanting them to be dead. But in our hearts, our words are as good as wishing they were dead. And this is challenging stuff. Now, Jesus then says, so if you're bringing all the way to Jerusalem from Galilee, remember that's a 3-day walk. If you're going to Jerusalem to offer a sacrifice, and when you get there, suddenly your conscience, suddenly a thought comes into your head that there is somebody back home that you bear a grudge against, Jesus is saying it's better to leave the animal there, go the 3 days back, sort it out with your brother, and then come back again and make the sacrifice. Is Jesus really saying that you need to walk all the way back and deal with stuff? Of course, Jesus is exaggerating, right? But that's the point. He's saying the priority is that you sort things out with your brothers and sisters, with your family members, with your co-workers. That is so much more important than bringing a sacrifice to God if our sacrifice is not from the right heart. Who do we need to seek reconciliation with? Paul says in Romans 12, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. And in Ephesians he says, be angry, but don't sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger, and give no opportunity to the devil. See, when we hold on to anger against a brother or sister, we give the devil a place, a foothold in our lives. And the devil loves that, because then he can come in and he can start driving a wedge between us and our brothers and sisters, between us and the Lord God. And then Jesus goes on. After anger, he says, do not murder, and then do not commit adultery. And so Jesus said, you've heard that it was said, you should not go to bed with another man's spouse. Now there's a saying today, sex sells. Sex sells. You just need to look on your phone, your computer, the internet, commercials, halftime show of the Super Bowl, the rise in sex trafficking. Sex sells. We're bombarded with this stuff, which is there to tempt us. And those images that we see, they're trying to encourage us to seek and to covet things which are not what the Lord God wants us to seek and covet. Things which encourage us to desire and lust after our own gratification. And I think what Jesus is saying then is just as relevant to today. So Jesus is saying, you've heard that it was said. But he said, but I tell you. Yeah, adultery is wrong. And the teachers of the law were absolutely correct in that. But they only applied that to the action and not to what was going on in the heart. So Jesus said, but I tell you that whoever looks at a woman or a man with lust has already committed adultery with them in his heart. It's possible to commit adultery with that look, with that thought, with that action. And that becomes a drug in us that pulls us out of the light into the darkness. There was a pupil who was standing in front of his teacher, and the pupil's called Johnny, and Johnny said to the teacher, "Teacher, would you punish me for something I didn't do?" And the teacher said, "Well, of course not." Johnny said, "Good, because I didn't do my homework." We could say that we don't commit adultery or we don't murder somebody, so we're okay, right? But Jesus is saying these things are just as relevant to us. When we get angry, when we think things, this is as much a challenge to us as well. And I think we need to take seriously Romans 3, when Paul again says, "For all have sinned, and fall short of the glory of God." I've sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. That's why we're going to be having our confession after this sermon in a moment. See, as we try and walk as children of light, the darkness will try and break in. And actually, the more we walk as children of the light, the more times we read our Bible, the more, the devil would be more wanting to come in and break us down. The devil isn't worried about lukewarm, passive Christians. The devil is concerned about Christians who are active in their faith. Christians who want to live out and shine out their light for Jesus in their homes, in their communities, in their workplaces. And so the challenge, as we had last week, is to be salt, to be light. Now you could say to me, well, Mine, how can I be salt? How can I be light if Jesus knows what's going on in the inside? If Jesus knows my thoughts? If Jesus even knows sometimes the things I struggle with, or what comes out of my mouth, or what goes in through my eyes? Jesus wouldn't want me anywhere near him. Jesus would not want me to be his light. And Jesus does take these things that we struggle with seriously. But I think some of us need to remember that these are not the unforgivable sin. If we're getting angry, if we lust, if we've got other struggles, please know that there is forgiveness, there is repentance for each one of us that repents. Walk as children of light. But when we see ourselves in the mirror, what do we see? We see sinners, right? We see ourselves as people with anger issues, with struggles with other people. But the amazing thing is that walking as children of light isn't about us. It's not about what I do, what I don't do. It's about who I am. It's about my relationship with the Lord God. We look at ourselves as sinners, but in God's eyes, we're saints. We're saints because of God's grace, God's love for each one of us. And because of that, we are worthy as children of God to shine out in dark places. And as we live our lives, even though we sometimes struggle, right? If we're real and we admit it, God will daily give us the strength to keep our focus, our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. And you might be saying, well, fine, mine, but I come to God and ask for forgiveness today. But will you forgive me tomorrow? Will you forgive me the next day? No, there's a difference between struggling with temptation and struggling with sins and just giving in to our desires and ignoring the Lord God. Allow God to struggle with you, to walk with you as you go on that walk as children of God. Let God walk with you. Look to the cross for your pardon and your cleansing. And know that, yes, God will forgive you not just one time, but 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, however many it takes. So walk as children of light, knowing that you're not sinners, you are saints, you are forgiven people, and shine out for Him.